Yeah, here we go now, baby. We are right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Friday edition of Before You Bet right here on the Covers YouTube channel. Coming off a nice little show there yesterday, 2-0 for yours truly, myself and my guest. We combined to go 3-1, so we're going to look to bring that winning energy into today. We have 10 total bets for the games on Sunday. It's going to be me, Ro, and in the second half of this show, professional sports bettor Hitman will be here to drop down his best bets. Before we get into the action, quick reminder, guys, if you like the show, it's easy to let us know. Just hit the like button right down there. Hit the subscribe button. You see our fancy graphic over there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. A lot of great content here on the Covers YouTube channel. If you're in the live chat right now, let us know who you like this weekend. If you're watching the replay, hit up the comment section right down there. Let us know what you like. Let us know about our bets, what you disagree with. We got a thick skin around here, so let us know. All right, let's get into it here. Let's bring in my first guest, my coworker here at Covers. You're going to want to follow this guy on social media if you're not doing it already. Covers a little bit of everything. Ro, how did you enjoy the Thursday night football game?
What can I say? It was kind of weird at first. Kind of started off slow, picked up steam as the night gone on. It was tough seeing DeAndre Swift go off for his new team. But the Eagles, Eagles haven't looked that great on offense, but they can definitely run the ball, and that defense looks pretty tough.
Yeah, a little sketchy stuff from the Eagles. Despite that, though, still 2-0 to start this season. Okay, so the Thursday nighters in the rear view mirror. Let's look ahead here to Sunday, Ro. Let's get into the action. I'm going to hit leadoff for us, and I'm going to start things off with my 6-point teaser for Sunday. Give me the Baltimore Ravens, going to tease them up to +9.5. We're going to pair them with the San Francisco 49ers down to 1.5 versus the LA Rams. So, first up, the Ravens. Yeah, lots of injury concerns for Baltimore, which is fair, but are we sure Joe Burrow's calf has properly healed? He was awful in week 1, somehow thrown for just 82 yards. He was blitzed heavily, and he did not respond well. Baltimore's defense coming off a 5-sack performance. Expect them to be in his face all game long. Baltimore plays up to the competition. They're on a ridiculous stretch that's seen them go 18-3-1 against the spread in their last 22 games as an underdog. Keep in mind, 3 games between these teams last season. The Ravens won the yards per play battle in all 3 of those games, despite not having Lamar Jackson for 2 of them. The other leg of this one, Shanahan owns McVay, and San Francisco is healthy. This is as healthy as they're going to be all season. This is a team that is usually very beat up. Look at the head-to-heads here between Shanahan and McVay. The 49ers are 9-3 straight up and ATS in those games, including wins of 15 and 16 last season. Keep in mind, much better versions of those Rams teams in these head-to-heads as well. So my 6-point teaser for the weekend, Ravens paired with 49ers. Okay, Ro, let's throw to you. What do you got for us first?
Well, I'm glad you kind of set it up for me by mentioning Rams-Niners, mentioning that Shanahan has kind of owned this series in recent years, and, I think it's going to happen again. I've got the 49ers -7.5. That number's bounced around a little bit. We had it at -7 for a long time yesterday, but it's back up to -7.5. Still loving it, this number. If you look at last week, both of these teams ended up winning big on the road in week 1, but I definitely think the Seahawks kind of played really, really poorly against the Rams. So I don't want to take too much from that. I think the Rams aren't quite as good as maybe they looked last week. You look at that Seahawks defense, and last week they had the second lowest pressure rate in the league, despite facing a pretty shaky Rams offensive line. Now that line takes on a Niners defense that can really get after the quarterback. They had the second best pressure rate in week 1. You also got massive performances from Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell last week. They both had 119 receiving yards. But Nacua is a 5th-round rookie, and he missed practice yesterday with an oblique injury. Atwell is really small. He struggles at getting off and get on the line against physical defenders. So I'm expecting a regression from them against the San Francisco defense that led the league in EPA per play last year. They didn't really feel the absence of Cooper Kupp against Seattle's soft defense, but they're definitely going to feel it this week. On the other side of the ball, the Rams were able to shut down Seattle's offense last week, but most of their dominant play on defense came in the second half when Seattle was down both starting tackles and Tyler Lockett was on the sidelines with that head injury. With the exception of Aaron Donald, the Rams don't have many playmakers on D. They're going to have a really tough time containing a Niners offense with a ton of weapons. We're talking Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. George Kittle is probably the fourth option. So there's lots of weapons on that Niners offense. They're really, really tough to stop. The other reason I really like the Niners in this spot is that they are a team with a killer instinct. This isn't the sort of team that coasts once they get up ahead. They put their foot on other teams' necks and they really step on it. We saw it last year. They had 11 regular season wins by double digits. 11 regular season and playoff wins by double digits, and that included both meetings against the Rams. So, give me the Niners to clean house once again.
There we go. Big San Francisco show today. Okay, let's keep on rolling here. One of my favorite total bets of the week. Give me over 47.5 between the Lions and Seahawks in Detroit. So check out Lions home games last season. 8 of the Lions' 9 home games last season saw at least 51 combined points scored. This includes a matchup with the Seahawks, who were in Detroit earlier in the season, where the teams combined for 93 points. I don't think they're going to hit 93 again, but I do think that they can at least get to 50. Plenty of red flags for each defense. The Seahawks D looked quite bad in week 1. They allowed 30 points to those Rams. They couldn't get a stop on third down. They were bad in the red zone. As for the Lions, the defense played pretty good versus Kansas City in week 1. You got to give them the credit for that. I think it might be a little bit of a mirage, though. This was probably the worst defense in the NFL last season. They were bad everywhere against the pass, against the run, on third down, and then the red zone. So I think that one's going to go over 47.5 in Detroit. Okay, Ro, let's take a trip to Prop City. You're looking at a receiver. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, I love the over for the longest reception for Keenan Allen. That number's sitting at 21.5 yards right now, priced at about minus 120 at most books. Now, when, Kellen Moore kind of took over for Joe Lombardi of the Chargers, we all got very excited, I think. We were excited to see the Chargers start attacking vertically instead of that dink and dunk system they were using last year. And all the reports coming into this year said they plan to use Allen more on the outside instead of using him, I would say misusing him as primarily a slot receiver. Well, they didn't actually throw very much last week. They really relied on their running game against the Dolphins. But with this matchup against the Titans and Austin Eckler banged up, I think they're going to pass the ball a whole lot more. Titans defense was 28th in the league in drop back EPA last year. They allowed the most passing yards as well. They gave up a bunch of big plays against the Saints last week. We're talking 4 receptions of 25 plus yards. And they also have a couple of injuries in their secondary as well. We've got Amani Hooker and Christian Fulton, both listed as questionable, both missing time in practice. Allen, of course, one of the best receivers in the league when healthy. He had 76 receiving yards last week, including a big 36-yard catch. And that makes 6 games in a row where he's had a reception of 22 plus yards. So with that number sitting at 21.5, I think that's the perfect number to hammer the over here.
Okay, you like the over there. I like the under between the Commanders and the Broncos. This one coming in at 39. I think the lowest total of the week. Probably not low enough, though. Check out the Commanders in week 1. Their offense was a total joke versus the Arizona Cardinals. The dinky Arizona Cardinals, probably the worst team in football. The offensive line allowed 6 sacks. They averaged just 3.8 yards per play. Sam Howell didn't exactly exhibit that he's a long-term guy by any means. Pretty good on defense, though, even though it was against the Cardinals. They didn't allow an offensive touchdown, just 2 trips to the red zone for Arizona. Much of the same story for the Broncos. This offense seems to have a long way to go. 16 points, really, versus the Raiders on their home field. Not very good. Similar story on defense. The defense for Denver, pretty good in that one. And if you're a fan of kicking, I think this might be the game for you. We're going to see a lot of punting, a lot of field goal attempts. These defenses last season, number 1 and 2 in opponent third down conversion percentage, each of them also in the top 10 in red zone defense. So I think we're going to see a low scoring game in Denver with the Commanders in town. Probably the ugliest game of the week. Speaking of ugly, Ro, this might be a contender for the ugliest game of the week. We got the Giants in Arizona taking on those dinky Cardinals. Who are you liking this one?
You know, you kind of set me up perfectly once again. You mentioned that the Cardinals might be the worst team in the league, and that's kind of what I like about this one. It's less of a play on the Giants and more of a fade on the Cardinals. This team is bad, and I think the spread would be several points higher, if not kind of from outlier performances from both of these sides in week 1. The Giants' offense was 9th in the NFL in EPA per play last year, but in week 1, things really spiraled out of control after they fell behind really early against the Cowboys. That couple of returns for a touchdown, really, one on defense, one on special teams. All of a sudden, they're down 19 points. And then it's really hard to catch up when you're behind, especially when you're a team like the Giants that, have an offense that's based around the run game so much. But they've also really just struggled against the Cowboys over the last few years. But I think, they're a really good spot for bouncing back here. I think you were mentioning to me earlier in the show, last year they were 7-0 ATS coming off losses. So this is a team that does know how to bounce back. I really like their coaching situation with DeBoll there. Daniel Jones was pretty efficient at quarterback last year. Saquon Barkley was finally healthy, and he was a monster with more than 1,300 rushing yards. Barkley looked pretty good last week, but he obviously didn't get many touches in that blowout loss. But I think he's going to have a big impact in this one. The Cardinals defense looked pretty aggressive last week. They played pretty well against the Commanders, but the Commanders don't have a good offense, obviously. And the Cardinals D just doesn't really have any good players on that side of the ball. I think you're going to see DeBoll and Mike Kafka are really going to be able to exploit that aggressiveness we saw out of the Cards last week. The other side of the ball, Cards have no impact players on offense. James Conner's probably the best of the bunch, and he's banged up. Dobbs, of course, at quarterback. That is a bad situation. So give me the Giants here.
Yeah, it looks like a nice bounce back spot for the New York Football Giants there. Okay, Ro, I will bring it home for us with a bit of a weirdo bet here, but hear me out. We have the Chargers in Tennessee taking on the Titans. I got my eyes on the fourth quarter total. I'm going to take under 13.5 for this one. So check this out. The Titans have gone under the fourth quarter total in 16 of their last 17 games. This includes last week where just 6 points were scored in the fourth quarter versus the Saints. And this is a pretty good pairing. That's just a trend. You need some more ammo aside from just the trend here. These teams last season, they ranked dead last and 25th in fourth quarter scoring last season. And Justin Herbert, this might be a surprise to some, but he gets worse as the game goes on. Now, I know you can't criticize Justin Herbert for some reason, but the numbers don't lie. Look at his quarterback rating last season. In the second half, it was about 16 points shy compared to his quarterback rating in the first half. And this is a pattern we saw continue versus the Dolphins in week one. Just a one-game sample size, I know, but his quarterback rating dropped in every single quarter in that game. So I think a low-scoring fourth Q between the Titans and the Chargers there in Tennessee. Okay, bro. So aside from that, there's a couple player props you have on your radar. The numbers weren't necessarily available when we were preparing the show. But what do you have on your radar here?
Yeah, there's definitely a few numbers I'm really eagerly waiting to drop, and I'm going to jump all over. Let's start off with Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce over on the receiving yards. I'm looking to take over on anything below 84. We saw those Chiefs receivers drop a ton of passes in the season opener, and that's going to make Mahomes even more reliant on Kelce once he gets back onto the field. Kelce is expected to suit up on Sunday. We've got TD props out on him, just no yards props yet. This is a really juicy matchup against the Jags. Allowed the third most yards in the league to opposing tight ends last year. This is probably going to be a pretty big number for Kelce. The number was at 82.5 when these teams met up in the playoffs last season, but he ended up with 14 catches and almost 100 yards in that contest. So, yeah, give me the over on anything below 84 here. Other play I really like is the over receiving yards for Samaje Perine. Looking at probably anything below 20 here. We're going to see a big correction from last week. His receiving yards number was set at just 10.5. He went way over that. 4 catches for 37 yards in week one. We know that Sean Payton loves to use his running backs out of the backfield as receivers. And I think Russell Wilson's going to be looking his way an awful lot because, the Broncos are going to have a ton of pressure coming at them from that Commanders front four. So, give me the over on Perine's receiving yards. I'm also keeping an eye on the over 0.5 sacks for Aiden Hutchinson. Anything around minus 130 or better, I'll take here. Hutch didn't get a sack last week, but he had a whopping 7 pressures against the Chiefs. Came on really strong towards the end of last season, ended up with 11 sacks as a rookie. Now he's taking on a Seahawks team that is down both starting tackles, just signed a 41-year-old out of shape and retired Jason Peters to provide depth. So, look for Hutch to have a big game there, and I'm liking him to pick up a sack.
Okay, there you have it. Our guys going to have a full card there on Sunday. Ro, before we let you out the door, let the people know what else you have going on over at Covers that they can check out.
Yeah, I mean, big thing for me at this time of the year is the CFL. I know the NFL's here, college football's here, but there's other football games out there to bet on. Big on the CFL. Follow it all year. Some great value because those lines move like crazy. So definitely keep an eye on me for CFL betting action. Of course, I'm always here with Joe talking UFC as well.
Absolutely. Okay, Ro, thank you very much for joining. Best of luck with your bets on Sunday.
You too, Joe.
Okay, there we go. Our guy. Make sure you give him a follow. He is covers pretty much everything that there is to cover for us here at Covers. Okay, let's keep on moving here. Coming up right now, let's bring him in. Professional sports bettor Hitman. We're having some audio issues in our little pre-show meeting. Hitman, how you making out?
Everybody can hear me. Not the best week one for me personally, but ready to get some of it back.
Ready to get some of it back. Okay, so let me ask you, out of what you saw in week one, did any opinions that you had going into the season change based off those results, or is it just, hey, it's a 1 week sample size, we got to throw it out?
I think that the biggest noteworthy thing that happened was all the games, not all the games, but so many unders on a lot of these totals, unders on a lot of player props. And I think that a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that there was no preseason for more teams than ever. And a lot of teams just came into this season rusty. And in week one, there wasn't much offense. So you're going to have to find a point in the season where offense is going to pick up. Is it going to be week 2? It's going to be week 3? Week 4? We don't really know yet. But that was my big thing that I noticed was that the offense just wasn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw 12 of those games go under in week 1. So it'll be interesting to see if that carries over into week 2. So let's get into week 2. So you heard me off the top. I like the Ravens plus 9.5. You actually like the other side of this. You're taking the Bengals -3. Tell us why you like Cincinnati to cover the spread in this one.
Yeah, so for me, Lamar Jackson struggled in week 1. Again, another player that had no preseason. In 4 starts against the Bengals since 2019, Jackson's only completed 53% of his passes for 6 yards per attempt. So this has been a trend against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that it begs the question, is he a fit for Todd Monken's offense? We've heard all about how they're going to throw the ball more this season. Is that the right offense for Lamar? It's still up in the air. So I could see some more early season struggles for the Ravens. Then you have the fact that the Ravens have their 2 best offensive linemen injured for this game. The offensive line did not play well against Houston. They have secondary issues, which you don't want against arguably the best trio of wide receivers in the NFL. And as much as Joe Burrow did struggle in week 1, I think some of that can be attributed to the weather. He had to change his gloves multiple times during that game. It was the worst game of his career. Is it going to be a trend with them? I don't think so. So I think that the Bengals have a bounce back spot this week.
Okay, right on. Okay, audio coming in a little choppy there, Hitman, but let's rip through your final 2 picks here pretty quickly. So Green Bay, Atlanta, total of 40.5. I originally looked at that and thought that number seems too low. Then I dug into it, and I kind of like what I've been seeing out of the Atlanta defense going back to last season a little bit. You like the under for this game. Why do you think it'll be a lower scoring matchup?
So both teams last week were bottom 3 in pass rate over expectation. Desmond Ridder had the shortest average depth of target of any quarterback in the league. As a matter of fact, 50% of his passes were at or behind the line of scrimmage. Both teams attracted a lot of under money in week 1. Both have 2 underrated defenses where the Packers spent a bunch of first-round draft capital on their defense. Atlanta spent a bunch of free agency money on their defense. And Green Bay, they operated at the 6th slowest pace last week. And last year, they were the slowest. Now, everybody said, well, that's an Aaron Rodgers thing. Aaron Rodgers likes to play slow. Well, Green Bay's playing slow again this year with Jordan Love. So maybe it's partially a Matt LaFleur thing at all. So, and one other thing, Aaron Jones probably not going to play in this game. Christian Watson probably not going to play. David Bakhtiari up in the air makes for an under game.
Yeah, some real difference makers there on offense for the Packers for sure. So let's stay in this game. The Jordan Love passing yard total. What are you looking at here? I think I know what direction you're going to go in.
Probably going to be an under, right, Joe? Jordan Love under 219.5 passing yards. On early downs last week, Jordan Love was only 7 for 17. Didn't really play great, but it was 3rd and 4th down he was just unsustainably good, throwing for 14 yards per attempt. That was against the worst defense in the entire NFL. Atlanta's defense is at least average, maybe above average at this point. As we said earlier, Green Bay operated at the 6th lowest pace. They have the injuries to Christian Watson and Aaron Jones. Romeo Doubs is also not fully healthy, didn't get a full complement of snaps last week. This is probably the worst weapons in the entire NFL. And we also have Atlanta running the ball a lot, killing a lot of clock, lowering the amount of possessions. Jordan Love under 219.5.
Love under 219.5. Okay, could be a real snooze fest in Atlanta with the Packers in 10. Okay, so there you have it. Hitman's 3 favorite plays for Sunday. My man, best of luck with your bets this weekend. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you again next Friday.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir. Okay, yeah, that is a man that you should consider tailing. Okay, so we're winding right down here. One thing I would be interested to know your guys' thoughts in, if you want to write them in the live chat or if you're watching the replay, the comment section right down there. So I thought we were all in agreement that the rule when the offense fumbles it through the end zone and it results in a touchback and the defense gets the ball, I thought everyone was in agreement that that's one of the worst rules in sports, but that's not the case. I tweeted about it last night, and I got a lot of pushback on it. People saying, well, just don't fumble the ball through. You got to protect the ball. I think that is the dumbest rule in all of sports. So the offense can fumble it literally on the 1 millimeter line before the goal line, and nothing happens. But if it moves that additional millimeter, and if it rolls through the goal line, through the pylon, the defense gets the ball back. That is way too much of a punishment. You want to punish the offense, take the ball back to the 15, the 20-yard line. If you want to do that, that's one of the worst rules in all of sports. Maybe the worst rule in all of sports. And I'll tell you what, it's going to happen in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl some year and decide the game. Then what are they going to do? They're going to wait until then to change the game. Just like we saw a couple years ago in the playoffs, the overtime rule, the coin flip with the Bills and the Chiefs. The Bills cried about it, and they ended up changing the rule because of that. So I think it's the dumbest rule in all of sports. I'd be interested to know what you guys think of it. I thought we were all in agreement that it was stupid. That is not the case, though. Some people actually like it, to each their own. So let me know what you think of that. Punishment doesn't fit the crime from Randy Gunther. Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely ridiculous here. We got a couple of people weighing in. Yeah, shout out to Randy for agreeing with me on that one. Okay, so that about does it for the Friday show. Sorry for the audio issues there with our last guest. We'll get that sorted out for next week. But just a reminder, if you like the show, you like what we do, make sure you are subscribed to the Covers YouTube channel. We have previews for every single NFL game this weekend. If we didn't cover it on the show today, you can find it on the channel. Also, a ton of college football content as well. Brad Powers is on the show every Monday and Thursday. As you guys know, we cut those videos out so you don't have to go through the last couple episodes of Before You Bet, so you can watch those on our YouTube channel as well. Also, a pretty fun-looking UFC card going down tomorrow night, a fun-looking fight night, a free event. Ro and I did our best bets for that, a little show called Pound for Pound Picks. It is a weekly UFC pick show that we do. So that's up on the YouTube channel as well. And that's it. Best of luck with your bets on Sunday. We'll catch you on Monday.